I would like to call aloha and good evening, everyone. It is Monday, August 12, 2024, and the time is 6:08 p.m. And I would like to call the special meeting of the Committee on Planning and the Economy to order. I would like to welcome committee members Say and Wire, and we are also joined by Council Chair Waters. Tonight we are holding a special Planning and the Economy Committee meeting here at Kaimuki High School in their Performing Arts Center auditorium, located at 2705 Kaimuki Avenue, to receive feedback and information from the communities in Council Districts 4 and 5 on the revised Primary Urban Center Development Plan, Bill 24-2024, which will guide development from Kahala to Pearl City. This meeting will focus on planning for Council Chair Waters' District 4, as well as Councilmember Say's District 5. There will be a short presentation by the Department of Planning and Permitting on plan highlights and focal points for Council's Districts 4 and 5, followed by public testimony and discussion. Members of the public may provide verbal testimony here in the Kaimuki High School auditorium, but this is a special in-person meeting, not a remote meeting by interactive conference technology. So virtual testimony will not be available. Before testifying, each person shall state their name for the record and will be limited to a 1-minute presentation. All persons who have registered to testify will be called upon first. At the sound of the buzzer, please conclude your remarks promptly. Persons who have not registered will be given an opportunity to testify following the registered speakers. Written testimonies, including the testifier's address, email address, and phone number, will be available to the public as described on the posted agenda. As a courtesy, please silence or turn off all cell phones for the duration of this meeting. Restrooms are located at the front entrance of the auditorium where you came in, and please, no consumption of food or beverages while in the auditorium. Only water will be allowed as long as it is either bottled or in a covered container. Thank you. I would also like to welcome the Chair of the Planning and Economy Committee, our Council Vice Chair, Kia Aina. Now we are moving to agenda item number 1, and this item is for discussion only. And this is Bill 24-2024, as I stated earlier. And this bill would repeal the existing Primary Urban Center Development Plan, Chapter 24, Article 2, Revised Ordinances of Honolulu 2021, and adopt a new Article 2 incorporating the newly updated plan. I will now turn the meeting over to Council Chair Waters, who represents Council District 4, and Councilmember Say, who represents Council District 5.
Thank you, Chair Cordero. Thank you, members of the Planning and Economy Committee, for coming to Kaimuki and our neighborhood in beautiful Kaimuki, although somewhat hot Kaimuki Theater. By the way, we were notified a few days ago that the air conditioning is out, so we apologize. But most importantly, it's important to us here to hear from you folks. My district actually runs all the way from Hawaii Kai, Kuli'o'o, New Valley, Aina Haina, Wailaiki. But that's in the East Honolulu Sustainable Communities Plan. As it pertains to the primary urban core, my district includes Kahala, Kaimuki, Kapahulu, Diamond Head, part of Diamond Head, and Waikiki. So I'd really like to hear from you folks as far as it pertains to my district for me, and then for council member Say for his district. But I'm really interested in how you feel about this plan. So I'm all ears today. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Oh, thank you very much. District 5, for all of you, includes Malolo Valley, St. Louis Heights, Manoa, Mo'iliili, Makali, Ala Moana, Makiki, and portions of Kaka'ako. You can see the diversity of the District 5 that we have. From a public housing in Pololo Valley to the rich and famous in Kaka'ako, Ala Moana. At this time here tonight, we are very privileged and lucky to have Ms. Dina Wong. Dina, would you stand to be recognized from the Department of Planning and Permitting? And my very good friend, Noel Cole. Noel. And they are from the Department of Planning and Permitting. And they will be providing to all of you a brief presentation of the plan focusing on highlights and focal points pertaining to the Council District 4 and 5. This is the plan that I think all of you should be here to participate, to get your input, your manao, of what you like to see the east side of Honolulu become. I was telling Chair Waters and Council Member Wire, I truly believe what they said as far as in the past. We keep the country country. Preserve Central Oahu. Preserve the windward side, preserve the North Shore side, and the sacrifice that maybe District 5 and 4 has to make, where you have development of housing for the future generations, have to be discussed like what we're doing this evening. Tonight is an outreach on behalf of the council and the planning chairperson, which is Council Member Kiaino. So at this point in time, I'll defer to Chair Waters.
Thank you. Oh, we have Council Member Val Okimoto joining us. Thank you, Council Member Okimoto. Chairs Cordero and Kiaina, shall we proceed with DPP's presentation before we take testimony? Okay, Chair wants to take testimony first. So we have... Oh, I'm sorry. Can I also introduce and congratulate the newly elected Council Member Scott Nishimoto, who's present in the audience. Scott, would you just say hi to everybody? Thank you for being here. Thank you. So I have a number of registered testifiers. We're going to go through this list first, but anybody else who wishes to share their thoughts, please don't hesitate to come up and testify. But first we have Lori Yamada. Lori Yamada, followed by Valerie Wong, and then Bruce Wong, and then I'll go from there. Aloha, Lori, thank you. Well, you can come up to the microphone there, and for those of you who'd like to stay seated, we have a mobile microphone. Aloha and welcome.
Aloha, Chair Waters and members of the City Council. I'm Lori Yamada, born and raised in Pololo and Kaimuki, retired Kaimuki Neighborhood Board member after 28 years of service, and am now director of the nonprofit Envision Kaimuki after the passing of Sharon Schneider. Our mission statement is looking to the future while honoring historical Kaimuki. I am basically all for the Bill 24 changes in the PUCDP that you guys did. My question is, in regards to the Kaimuki and Kapahulu areas, are these changes equal to making these small towns into special districts or main streets permanent. I say this because all the businesses are presently zoned B2, which allow heights of up to 60 feet max. And we do not want that to happen any more than it has already. Mahalo.
Thank you very much. Members, any questions for the testifier?
Mr. Yamada? Oh, sure.
Please,
Mr. Yamada, I have a
Cordero.
question. Could you please clarify that you said that this is on, you said King Street?
Kaimuki and Kapahulu
Or
areas.
Kaimuki and Kapahulu,
Yeah,
and you
so
talked about
Wailea
tree
Avenue.
canopy?
Sorry?
You're talking about tree canopies?
No. Just about B2 zoning of the buildings that are presently there. They're all B2s, and it allows heights of up to 60 feet max. So by doing this new thing, according to the plan, according to the bill, to make it small, low, whatever, that one, and 1 to 3 stories high, would it be a permanent fix for eternity,
Okay, thank you for that. Thank you for that point.
Any follow-up questions? Seeing none, thank you. Next we have Valerie Wong, followed by Bruce Wong. Aloha.
Aloha, everyone. I'd like you guys to consider that Waikiki is already densely populated. The traffic is bad. It's hard to find parking already, and to expand more buildings, higher buildings, and the idea of more buildings being built there is atrocious to me. Also, the pedestrian and bicycle bridge, I know it will be unpopular, but for the people living on University Avenue. But in case of tsunami or fires, it's a good way to get in and out. And there's a fire station at University and Date Street that's closest to the Halekulani and other hotels. And we want to preserve our moneymaker, Waikiki. The urban core is already overbuilt and too saturated. When ground is covered with concrete, asphalt, etc., water can't soak into the ground, causing potential flooding. And the addition of buildings already with the ADUs is turning neighborhoods into ghettos. Also, traffic is congested, making it difficult for firefighters, police, ambulances to reach problems in a timely manner. And add road work or an accident, and you add to the disaster and resulting in more deaths and destruction. Also, traffic adds to air pollution and is a detriment to our tourism industry. And all surrounding areas of Waikiki should not be turned into ghettos. This is also detrimental to our tourism industry. The rail will be a burden to generations of taxpayers to come. We need affordable housing to be built west of the airport along the rail. We need riders to help pay for the maintenance of our rail, as it's already going to be a burden to maintain to our future generations. Thank you very much. Also, one last thing. No, that's okay. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Valerie. I also read your written testimony. I appreciate you very much. Members, do you have any questions for Valerie? Seeing none, thank you again. Next, Bruce Wong. Hello, Mr. Wong.
Hi, my name is Bruce Wong. I'm a member of the Kamiki Kapahula Neighborhood Board, and I voiced my opinion on these changes many times already. And my wife told me not to blow up and get angry. But looking at this, it's it's terrible because it's marking the area that I live, where my grandfather bought the property, where my mother lived there. Um, her brother Bill Richardson lived there, and now I live there with my family. And so basically this pink area, you're gonna make it look like Makiki, in the Punoho area. I encourage everybody here to drive down Young Street and take a look at Young Street. When I grew up, Young Street was all homes. It had a few apartment buildings, but not like what it looks like now. And to make this area look like Makiki is be a crying shame. And we know what comes after the 6-story walk-ups or the 5-story walk-ups. It's condominiums. And so this 60 feet height limit, I know it's going to change. And basically, when you go into the Makiki area, you see old homes stuck in between condos, 8-story, 10-story walk-ups. And it's a shame that you're going to do this to our area now, this pink area right here. And so I'm upset about that. And basically, I didn't hear about this until the plan was done already. Permitting and planning did it already. And so, but our elected officials, I mean, you guys are sitting up there. You need to help us and protect and not let things like this happen. And when it does start to happen, let us know. And you've come forward to let us know now, but it seems like it's a done deal when you put it in print like this. And so I really want to know from the council sitting here if this thing can be reversed. Can it be reversed? That's my question.
Oh, Mr. Wong, thank you so much. Actually, DPP did do a community outreach, and I'll have them explain to you. But ultimately, they submitted the plan to the department, excuse me, to the Planning Commission. So the public, including us here sitting on this table, had a chance to ask the Planning Commission, which I did, ask the Planning Commission to amend the plan. They adopted maybe 3 of my 10 requested amendments. Now it's before us, and this is where the public has a say through us to amend the plan. And that's why, working with the chair of the planning committee, I asked her to bring the committee to the public like this, so that you folks have a chance to tell us exactly what you want to see in this plan. And then we can amend it before we send it up to the mayor. So you're right on point, Mr. Wong, that um, this is your opportunity. And at the last hearing that we had before Council Member Cordero's community, Chair Kia Aina, and I'll let her speak to you directly, but she said that she's going to take what each individual council member's community wants and roll it into the plan. So that's why I was hoping, and we reached out, we wanted to be more, I wanted to pack this whole house with people telling us how they believe. So one, DPP can hear it, but second, this committee can hear it. So thank you for coming out today and sharing your mana'o with us, because I certainly take what you're saying seriously. And I'm going to suggest to Chair Kia Aina some very significant changes to the plan as it relates to my district. So thank you, Mr. Wong.
Okay, I just want to make one more comment.
Sure.
There's a lot of neighbors that I grew up with, that I grew up in this area on Wynham Avenue. And so basically, they're still in their homes. And I know they don't want this either. I've talked to them. And so, they're not here tonight, but that doesn't mean not against it. And so, again, the density should be put along the targeted rail area, not in our neighborhood. And so, thank you for your time.
No, thank you. My understanding is that Senator Carol Fukunaga is here as well. Oh, there she is. Aloha. Thank you for being here. Yeah, absolutely. Councilmember Kia Aina.
Aloha, Mr. Wong. Thank you. Good to see you. And, thank you for sharing your mana'o. Rather than explain the process at the end of this hearing, I think it's important for you to understand the process now. And so normally for these plans, you have a resolution and it has to go through 2 hearings before it goes to the full council. Because of the magnitude of this plan, and I keep on saying it over and over so people understand the magnitude, right? It impacts 440,000 people. It covers 5 council districts, nearly 20 neighborhood boards. The committee process in and of itself, despite the outreach done by DPP, would have been insufficient in my eyes. And so in concert with Chair Waters and Vice Chair Cordero, we had determined that we needed to go into the community. So we had one in Salt Lake recently. We have this today. We are going to go to Leeward Community College on August 22nd, and on September 26th, we are going to go to Councilmember Dos Santos Tam's district. There will be no action on this resolution until those meetings are complete. After the last special meeting, it is my intent to move for action the resolution in late September during the committee week. It goes to full council, then it has to come back to committee, and I was looking to move it again in October. Clearly, if we all realize that more needs to be done with regard to time, what we will probably do is defer the bill, because there's none of us would want a measure that the community feels did not get properly vetted. Having said that, given the fact that when you go down into each district, it's very specific, I highly recommend that you work directly with your council members, because I'm going to be relying on them for the amendments relating to your district. During the committee process, you're free to come and make your own recommendations directly, but I'm going to, I expect the council members from each district to try to address the concerns of the community. Oh, I'm sorry, August 26th is the hearing at Leeward Community College. And by the way, just because it's for Councilmember Okimoto's district doesn't mean that you can't go to that one as well. Anyway, I just wanted to explain the process.
Thank you. Mr. Wong, I was wondering if you could point out, I'm looking at where you're saying that Young Street is pink, and pink, there's different types of pinks. So I just want to be able to find out exactly which area you're talking about on Young Street. Is it between McCully and, I'm sorry, do we have a mobile microphone? No. So Young Street, and can you give me the blocks that it's at?
The area in pink is between 6th Avenue and Kapahulu Avenue, bordered by, what is that? Is that Kaneki? No, that's not Kaneki Avenue. Oh, that's the H1. So it's Diamond Head side of H1 along Kapahulu Avenue and 6th Avenue all the way down to, I don't know, the bottom of the street doesn't have the names on there.
Okay.
I assume that's Alawai. I'm not sure.
Right before the Alawai, I think so. Okay.
So that's the area in question. I don't want it looking like Makiki.
Okay.
The homes are stuck in between 20-story condos and 10-story apartment buildings.
So that pink, I think, is town neighborhood low, which is 2 to 4 stories. And you said you don't want it going 6 stories, yeah?
It was, didn't you say the height limit was 60 feet?
Okay, I'm just
That's
looking
6
at this one.
stories.
Oh, I heard 6 stories. Sorry, I can't hear.
I heard 60 feet.
60 feet.
That's what I
Okay,
heard.
okay, got it. I'll amend my comments here. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Also, I made a handout for you folks that is up front that's dealing with District 4, and you have another one that Councilmember Say made for District 5. It includes a large map of the entire District 4 and District 5, but also I broke it down by neighborhood. So Waikiki is the only area with pink. Pink is resort. Also within my handout, it actually describes by color what's recommended by DPP. And they gave it each a name. Each color has a name. The lighter the color, the less density. The darker the color, and red is the most dense. Yeah. So again, pink is resort. But what I will do also, Mr. Wong, is when DPP comes, does their presentation, I'll actually ask more specific questions when it comes to various neighborhoods. Yeah, that might be more helpful too. But thank you. Next we have Rafia Asina. Hi. Followed by Jacob Wynick.
Good evening, Chair and other council members. I'm here just only simple question, nothing about already you know and everything is explained. Why we are thinking about this, our district area, that density is still already we have already explained Laura, Laurie and others. Why we are thinking about that district, more density, more congestion, more thing, more population intact. Why we are making this and what make us this decision to think about this area to rather than west side. Why? That's only thing.
I actually know the answer to that, but I'm going to wait for DPP to do their presentation, and we'll have that discussion with DPP. But great question. It's basically based on the general plan, which is the whole island, and they've identified different areas to for future growth. But again, great question. I'm going to leave that up to DPP at the appropriate
Yeah,
time to
thank
answer
you.
that.
Yeah, we don't want slum to leave. Yeah, just we are living already too much. Yeah, so we can explain. Actually, this development is not against anything, grow development, but we can think other way to, you know, to spread it out and helping this population crisis, whatever in future. Always welcome, but not to make us too much pressure on whatever we already existing. That's all.
No, appreciate
Thank you.
that very much. May I ask, Rafino, what neighborhood or what area do you live?
I'm in district, or neighborhood district 5. I'm the member.
Okay, terrific. Thank you. Jason, does anybody have any questions for Rafino? Seeing none, thank you. Jacob Wynick next, followed by Ivan Ho. Hi, Jacob.
Hello, Chair. Thank you for helping organize this meeting, and thank you to all the council members who are participating here tonight. I would like to start off by voicing a disagreement with Councilmember Say's opening remarks. Development and increased population are not net negatives, and I don't see them as a burden. They are something to be welcomed in a properly managed and properly developed area. And I think that this plan being presented tonight is putting us on the right track to really address some of the development concerns and to address some of the challenges and shortcomings we faced since the last time this plan was updated. To put things in perspective, at the 2020 census, Honolulu County was recorded to have over 1 million people living on island. 4 years later now, there are 989,000, and more people are leaving every day. Life is too unaffordable here. There's too little opportunity. Housing costs continue to increase exponentially. Commercial rent costs continue to increase exponentially, quashing the innovative spirit of the people here, preventing them from building wealth, preventing opportunity from coming for the next generation, and so many people are leaving. With this primary urban center development plan, I hope that we can be more aggressive in implementing the housing solutions we need, so that way we can have a young, vibrant, and healthy Honolulu. And I would also like to submit that we need more aggressive transit solutions to address real traffic concerns that are clogging our city streets. We need to finish the rail. We need bus rapid transit. We need to move aggressively on more protected bike lanes. As a resident of Waikiki, I took the Beaky here, and I took my life into my hands as I was riding up Kapiolani Boulevard to this school because cyclists aren't allowed to ride on sidewalks. We need transit solutions. We need housing solutions. The people here need opportunity, and I'm hoping that this plan will be able to deliver that for the next generations. Thank you.
Thank you, Jacob. Members, any questions for Jacob Wynett? Councilmember Cordero.
I don't have a question, Chair. I just want to thank you for what you just shared, and I wholly agree with you. Mahalo, Chair.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Wynett? Actually, I think you and Calvin probably have a lot in common, Jacob. But next we have Ivan Holt, followed by Christopher Malin. Hello, Ivan.
Aloha. Aloha, Chair, members of the council. My name is Ivan Ho. I'm commenting as a Makiki resident. I recently organized a meeting with several state lawmakers and Makiki condo representatives. In that meeting, we shared our concern about Ikenakea Development Company and their proposed 201H high-rise development on Wilder Avenue in front of Punahou School. While we support the intent of building affordable housing, we think that project is a good example of how small-scale development policy, such as 201H, can clash with big-scale policy like Bill 24. We think the project is an inappropriate use of the powers of HRS 201H because of its sensitive location and how it would conflict with Bill 24's vision for Makiki. Among other problems, the proposed project site will have huge impacts to traffic across Greater Honolulu, including District 4 and District 5. The site is next to two sensitive H1 freeway on-ramps, Punahou School, Marino School, Manoa Valley, UH, two hospitals, and a lot more, right? So approving ad hoc 201 projects like this one would conflict with the big vision and strategic plan of Bill 24. And the developer is trying to be cute by converting parcels that are currently zoned single-family R5 and low-rise walk-up A1 so that they can develop a high-rise building. We want the stakeholders, like the development agencies and lawmakers here in this meeting, to tell developers like Ikenakea to find more appropriate parcels for their projects. The parcels the developers want to rezone literally borders A3 and BMX zones that are already properly zoned for what they want to build. It makes no sense to micromanage these parcel changes when it is literally next to denser, high-rise zoning neighborhoods. The development is irresponsible, ad hoc, and micromanaged policymaking, and that will have outsized negative impacts across the city, including D4 and D5. And it will contradict what Bill 24 envisions for that section of Makiki. Thank you.
Seeing none, thank you. Next.
Got to write clear. Moylan, M-O-Y. I live in Manoa. Actually, I'm on the board there, and what I'm coming to ask is for a little help and guidance. This document, you can tell a ton of work went into it. I worked on a complete general plan revision in another city myself, so I've been there, and I can see all the care that went in there. We know that the city has a target of how many new housing units it has to put in citywide, right? Whether it's the 18,000 figure I read about in the paper today or some other number that you decide on, that's fine. it would be incredibly helpful, especially for those of us in neighborhood boards, if you could break that number down into, we think this many of them should go in this neighborhood, this many of them should go in that neighborhood, because I think you could tell that if you asked every citizen to come in and say where we should build more housing, the answer would be in somebody else's neighborhood. And you would get none of them built. I mean, there's a ton of NIMBYism out there. But I think all of us have to try to split up the tasks so that we minimize the pain for any given neighborhood. And it would be super helpful to know how much our neighborhood should have to do. One other thing, if I may just say, in my former city, there was a mechanism that was particularly helpful to reduce the gap between housing supply and demand from both sides. And that is to take land uses that were zoned as creating housing demand, job sites, schools, and when they became vacant, convert them, rezone them into residential. We called it ITR, industrial residential. And that way you move both the demand and the supply closer together. It's sort of, you got two for the price of one. So if you can give us that guidance and consider ITR, thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate your comments. And in fact, we're currently going through Bill 64, also within the Planning and Economy Committee, talking about things exactly like what you're talking about. Members, do you have any questions for the testifier? Seeing none, you know, it's a perfect opportunity at this point to turn it over to DPP to do their presentation, which I think may give rise to more questions. So, DPP, folks ready to go? Thank you.
Okay, we will get started. And we do have a number of slides, so I will try and move through as quickly as possible. So this update was done between 2017 and 2023, so it has been in the works for a while by DPP and a consultant team led by Ramey and Associates. As mentioned, the region covers Waialaikahala to Pearl City and spans 5 council districts, 3 in their entirety and 2 partial. And tonight we're discussing districts 4 and 5. So, could you go back one? Okay, so we're going to cover where you can find the proposed plan and background documents. And specifically, we were asked in this presentation to focus on the growth aspects of the plan, defining the place types that are part of the land use map, and comparing that with current zoning, and then some finish out with some select highlights from the rest of the plan. So all of the plan documents can be found on the DPP website. This is very long. This presentation will make it available, but you can also navigate there from the DPP website with the drop downs. There you'll be able to see all of the background research documents and the review report for this plan, and also summaries of engagement. The plan itself addresses major themes affecting the region's growth, development, environment, and public resources. And this content is captured in the plan's 11 chapters. So we're just going to be going into greater detail on the first 3 chapters that cover the development and land use aspects of the plan. The role that PUCDP plays in growth is one, to implement the policies of the general plan. So the general plan, there are 8 regional plans on Oahu, and the general plan sets the overall population distribution. And there are 2 areas of growth. This has been generally unchanged since the 70s, where the PUC is designated as a area to be fully developed. And that doesn't mean inappropriately, but to, the appropriate extent. And the second area is EBA. This plan also reflects the recent planning that was done for transit-oriented development areas. And I will just say that that is the major areas that growth is being directed to. It also identifies areas of environmental constraints and locations for growth over the plan horizon. It also will need to align with statewide policies and guidance as applicable, and I'm just bringing up here some recent legislation that was passed, Senate Bill 3202, now Act 39, which deals with housing density, and that's effective in 2027, and it will be the task of the city to work through how to implement that as well. So the PUCDP helps to raise all of these types of considerations regarding growth in order to help guide it to the most appropriate areas. So the DPP produces an annual report on the status of land use, and for our most recent one, fiscal year 2022, it's showing the population distribution for the PUC, which is about 43% of the island's residential population, and that is expected to hold steady. So while there will be some increase in population, the faster growing region is EVA, more growth is directed towards EVA, and that share of population will continue to increase. The projections vary slightly, from year to year, but they're roughly in the PUC have hovered from approaching 15,000 to approaching 12,000 over the plan horizon to 2045. The translation of net new units needed for island-wide in the annual report is around 50,000. So I'm just going to report, it's a little, just to make it easier to understand what that means, I'm going to report, quote directly from the report. So it says, this population-based estimate of future housing demand can be interpreted as the historical norm projection. This is because the projection will provide the level of housing that historically has satisfied the shelter needs of the population. It assumes that the housing market will respond to the changing population the same way it did in the past, with the same characteristics, under the same regulatory limitations and constraints. In other words, the future population under the historical norm projection would be no worse off housing-wise than the current or past population, and they would be better off if more housing were provided by the market. So the 50,000 island-wide is the status quo needed to 2045. So growth populations are also affected by demand as well. So it's not just about the population growth, it's also demand. So there's latent housing demand within the market. There could be other market factors or, either hindrances or catalysts. There's infrastructure investments and availability that affect whether or not development happens. Again, environmental constraints, the individual decisions of property owners and developers, and crucially for the PUC, the structure and age and condition of the building. So that means we can expect some level of redevelopment to replace buildings that are nearing the end of their lifespans. The approach to growth that's taken in the PUCDP is again to focus the majority of future growth near transit and daily services, to align infrastructure expansion with priority growth areas, to invest in a lesser degree in bus transit supportive corridors, and then to grow sustainably by avoiding environmentally constrained areas, supporting walkable and well-designed neighborhoods, and encouraging context sensitive redevelopment and infill when and where it does happen. So the updated PUC land use maps have been organized around the concept of place types. Per the city charter, the DP maps are more generalized than the zoning maps. So they're meant to guide zoning, but they're not, getting into the nitty gritty. And with the TOD planning that has happened, we needed more colors to represent the mixed use areas, the new types of land use that are part of the TOD planning. So that is how we arrived at the place types. So again, just for context, here are the TOD areas. 15 of the 21 rail stations fall within the PUC. Of those, 3 stations are already in operation. And the remaining skyline portions within the PUC are likely to be built within the plan horizon of 2045, possibly with the exception of the last 2 stations, which are don't have dates attached to them, but are called the future segment. Those are the last 2 stations leading to Ala Moana. So again, the 2 TOD areas there are no TOD areas within District 4. There are 2 within District 5. And those 2 are Ala Moana and a portion of the Kaka'ako Civic Center. And I will mention with Kaka'ako, that is under state jurisdiction. The city does coordinate with them, but that is part of a redevelopment area that is under state jurisdiction, Kaka'ako. So returning to the PUCDP land use map, because of the regional scale, the maps are overall consistent, but less detailed than the maps found in the TOD special area plan. And the purpose of the DP maps is to look out into the future and picture the relative locations in different densities and use. So to be clear, the maps do correspond to zoning, but they may correspond to more than one zoning designation, and they do not account for each specific scenario that may affect a height determination, for example. So this figure illustrates the PUC place type scale. The place types correspond, again, they correspond to more than one existing zoning designation, and they're broadly broken between residential on the top and commercial and mixed use on the bottom, and going from low density up to the highest density, which is downtown and resort. So in the interest of time, I'll skip through these a little quickly since Chair Waters already has these in it, helpfully in your handout. So we have our lowest density place types, which are the Valley and Ridge neighborhoods. Those are generally areas with environmental constraints that should not be further developed. We have the near town neighborhoods are single family again, and also some low density multifamily, and those are more of the flatland areas, and the near town and corridor center low are the corresponding commercial that goes along with the low density neighborhoods. Low to mid density place types include, so it's starting with the commercial on the left, that could either be business mixed use with occasional apartment mixed use, and this max height range is recommended 3 to 6 stories. So again, to clarify what the ranges mean, it doesn't mean that in each instance that has that color, it should be up to 6 stories. It means the range of that place type, the max should be 3 to 6 stories. The town neighborhood low, walkable lower density multifamily residential, and the town neighborhood medium is small apartments and mid-size apartment buildings. So then we get to the mid and high density place types. So these are corresponding to our apartment districts and our apartment and business mixed use districts. And finally, the highest density areas are found in the more central TOD areas, the downtown, and in our only resort district in the PUC Waikiki. This is a close-up of the place types map for District 4. And just for comparison, this is the current zoning. And next. So I'm just going to highlight the two areas of change here. One is showing the Kahala Mall, which currently has a height limit of 60 feet. And the recommendation in the plan for all mall areas is to allow context-specific residential over commercial or mixed use as appropriate when it redevelops. On YLI, it's showing low density multifamily on the backside of YLI and up to small apartment on the other side of YLI. That is a transit-rich commercial corridor and narrowly allowing context-appropriate residential infill in that area. Next slide. So this area, which I believe came up in testimony earlier, so this area, in response to the testimony we received over the plan update process, DPP recommended that this area be shown back as the lower density yellow color, and that recommendation was picked up by the Planning Commission. So now we're on to District 5. Okay. And again, comparative zoning. And the highlights, the change highlights for that area, starting with the Most Makai change, that's again the Ala Moana TOD district. We've already seen a lot of the change in that area before its pending zoning has been adopted, and that has happened through the option of the interim plan development permits. Moving up from there, the PUCDP identifies the King Veritania corridor as the single best opportunity in the PUC for walkable and bus transit served mixed use redevelopment. It's outside of environmental constraint areas, and it's recommended that a special area plan be prepared in the future for this corridor. And lastly, at the top, Wilder is called out as an opportunity to integrate more neighborhoods, so small scale serving commercial for that Upper Makiki neighborhood. So the plans does not go into the same level of detail as a special area plan, and the focus area chapter that it does contain, which is chapter 3, is not meant to be a replacement for more detailed special area planning. However, it does provide some big picture considerations for areas that may see some level of change during the plan horizon, but perhaps they have known infrastructure challenges or deficiencies. There's a need for, they might be more established or historic neighborhoods in need of retaining character and so on. And while the TOD areas are identified in the focus area chapters as transformation areas, most of the focus areas identified provide some guidance for the many stable and mature neighborhoods in the urban core that will likely see more piecemeal redevelopment of aging buildings and that have not been the subject of a planning process in recent years. So just quickly, the focus areas in Council District 4. Again, Waialae as a neighborhood serving Main Street and Kapahulu as well. The focus on these is maintaining the Main Street character, gradual infill of attached multi-story buildings, and pedestrian amenities. The Waikiki urban resort place type. Basically, Waikiki is in need of revitalization, and there's a lot of redevelopment pressure there. However, it is also severely impacted by climate change and sea level rise concerns. So DPP is actually working now, based on some of the groundwork laid in researching this plan, on a plan to provide near-term recommendations for extending the useful life of our public infrastructure in Waikiki, and also looking at the implications further down the line. It is a entirely man-made shoreline, and so that is more impacted than most. Moving into Council District 5, focus areas include Mo'ili, Ely, Macaulay, and Date. Those areas also need to address drainage and flooding concerns. They should encourage neighborly frontages and decrease front-loaded parking. And those areas, it's important that those areas maintain the housing affordability. Again, with King and Baratania, I already discussed that as being an opportunity for bus rapid transit and a more walkable corridor. Lastly, in Council District 5, we have Makiki Wilder, and that's again evolving Wilder Street more into a neighborhood spine, and in Ala Moana Kaka'ako, that is a major transformation district, which with much of the development already having been completed. So lastly on these, just because there are so many moving parts, I just want to paint the whole picture of the things that are overlapping. So we have some special districts. The Diamond Head Special District and Waikiki Special District are in District 4, and those are regulated through the land use ordinance. The Diamond Head Special District is mostly concerned with preserving public views to the state monument, and the Waikiki Special Design District is more about actual design for the resort there. There are also some older legacy plans that we look at when doing this sort of plan, and that community members may also bring up during the process. So there's a couple plans that were done before the current 2004 plan, but they can still be referred to for community character and discussion. So the core principles from the Kaimuki Top of the Hill Town plan is that it is a pedestrian-oriented main street with historic character and mom and pop businesses. The Kapahulu Community Plan, some of the core principles that were pulled through were that it's a community for local serving businesses, and it's in need of traffic calming and pedestrian and facade improvements. Same thing for District 5. The special districts include the Thomas Square Arts Academy of Arts Special District, and that includes the park and the museum, both historic sites, the Ala Moana TOD neighborhood plan, and the state Kaka'ako special district there. A legacy plan we referred to for District 5 was what was called the 4M Makiki, Tantalus, Manoa, Macaulay, Mo'ili, Ili Inventory Phase Report. So this really wasn't a plan, it was more of a report. But we did find that it is saying something that is still true, that there needs to be more consistent development pattern in Makiki with better transitions. And it also is proposing bus rapid transit in that area. So lastly, we won't go through every chapter, but I just wanted to give you a sense of what's in the rest of the plan by showing 3 maps. Most of the chapters include maps that really illustrate the content of the chapter and give you an idea of implementation of the policies. So we're going to close with looking at the housing map, the coastal hazards map, and the public use map. So this is showing the coastal hazards map. The dark blue is the sea level rise exposure area to 3.2 feet. That's projected out to the end of the century. The light blue, which is much more extensive, is 6 feet of passive sea level rise, and that is recommended for what we should be looking at for infrastructure and future growth, basically. The map is grouped and numbered into sub-areas, and each represent a set of conditions and concerns related to sea level rise and coastal hazards and potential adaptation approaches. These represent an initial integration of this issue into the long-range planning documents, and in many cases, future special area planning is recommended. So the housing framework, we already talked a lot about the development, so I'll just tell you what this map shows. It's basically showing factors that influence housing over time. It's showing the transit supportive areas inside and outside the TOD districts, major planned HPHA projects and redevelopment, and also identifying areas of low-rise multifamily residential built prior to 1980, which have a good chance of that we would see them be redeveloped over the plan horizon. And finally, this is the public use map, and all of these maps are either in 2 or 3 segments because the PUC is so large. The red outlined areas show the special districts, and the special districts remain the single best tool for controlling heights and maintaining important public views. In District 4, public views are maintained to the Diamond Head State Monument and panoramic views from the shoreline to the Ko'olau. And in District 5, which is more densely developed, Malka Makai corridor views maintain a sense of spaciousness. And that is all I have for you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was very, very helpful. I'd like to turn it over to the committee for questions, and then we can have the public again come and ask follow-up questions. So, committee members, any questions for DPP?
Okay, aloha. First of all, thank you guys so much. I know this is a lot of work, but just because it's, again, very complicated, I just need to make sure that we have everything documented. So I'd like for you to file this as a communications so that for the the community that's here tonight, all you need to do is go to the clerk's website for Bill 24, 2024, and you're going to be able to get this. And I apologize that it was not done beforehand, because that probably would have been helpful, not just for yourselves, but also for the committee members here. But as I mentioned, you are not hindered from just coming to this meeting. You're able to come to the other 2 special meetings as well. And you're also able to come to the 2 committee hearings that we're going to have in September and October. So that's all I wanted to say.
Fantastic. I have a couple questions. So let's start with Kaimuki. Is Lori Amada still here? Yeah. Okay. So in Kaimuki, PPP, why is Kaimuki considered near town neighborhood rather than Valley Ridge neighborhood? I noticed that Kahala is Valley Ridge. Why isn't Kaimuki Valley Ridge? Which again, by the way, is the lowest possible density, right? And by the way, if there's anybody from Kahala, we're not disputing that. We want to keep it Valley Ridge, even though Noma Valleys are Noma Ridges.
Yeah.
Oh, we got Diamond Head. We got Diamond Head. So we're considering that the ridge.
That was the only one that didn't fit that pattern, but yes, that is true. Kahala is actually a lot less dense than Kaimuki is already. There are not, Kaimuki tends to have some stacked developments, so like more either divided lots or ADUs. Kahala has much larger properties with larger homes and typically only one on a property. So it just is a different development pattern.
Okay, appreciate that. And having walked door to door numerous times in Kaimuki with lots of flag lots, I understand what you're saying. But at the same time, we want to keep it Kaimuki. So, but new town neighborhood, which is the yellow that you see on the map. And if it's possible to put up the District 4 map again, I think that'd be super helpful. That one.
Yeah.
So you could see how you got near Valley, Valley Ridge neighborhood, which is to the right of Diamond Head, and then Kaimuki, Kapahulu to the left. Green, by the way, is the open space, the parks. I believe purple is the schools. Yeah. But, okay, my next question. So Mauka of Wailai Avenue is town neighborhood. And looking at the legend, town neighborhood says that it's possible to get 2 to 6 stories. And it looks like it's not just Wailai Avenue, but perhaps Ke'anu Street or 1 or 2 streets.
It's stepping back from that corridor.
Okay, and I know you said this earlier about 2 to 6. You're not necessarily advocating for 2, but
it could be.
It could be. Now I'm looking at the resolution which reads, all zone change applications relating to land in the primary urban center development plan area will be reviewed by the department for consistency with the general plan, the primary urban center development plan, and any applicable special area plan. So what I'm reading here is, and by the way, I introduced this by request of DPP. This says that if we pass this plan as is, and someone down the road suggests, perhaps on Ke'anu Street as an example, to build a 6-story building, DPP is going to look at this plan and go, well, it's part of the primary urban core plan, right? Is that what this paragraph that I just meant means?
Again, we're meant to provide broad guidance and not to the context specific level. So DPP would be looking at, if somebody did come in, you don't want to do spot zoning, right? If everything's 1 story around it, it's unlikely they're going to get their 6 stories. So this is about looking out into the future. It's about trying to keep these neighborhoods at a reasonable scale instead of saying nothing and, you know, having things redevelop more in a more ad hoc way.
No, I appreciate that. And the fact of the matter is, we need to build more housing. And this is looking out, 20 years from now. And I have remarks relating to that in my closing statement. But At the same time, you're planning, you have a separate part of your department called permitting. And sometimes they get really upset because it seems that the permitting guys don't always listen to the planning guys when they issue these permits. Okay, a couple more questions and I'll turn it over to you folks. Waikiki. Oh wait, I'm not done with Kamiki Kapahulu. So from 6th Avenue down to Kapahulu Avenue, that is town neighborhood low.
That is what got recommended to be changed back to yellow.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, did you guys hear
The
that?
peach in the red circle is recommended to be yellow.
Okay, wonderful. And then, actually, can you repeat that one more time? On that area that's circled
Yep,
was changed to be yellow,
correct,
which would be near town neighborhood.
correct.
And that's in large part due to the neighborhood
Absolutely.
board's testimony before the planning commission.
Yes.
So good job, neighborhood board. Waikiki, real quick. Now, most of it is resort, and Makai of Kuhio Avenue is resort. Mauka of Kuhio Avenue is apartment.
Yes.
By the way, that's where we actually have a lot of affordable units in that area. But on the Mauka side of Kuhio Avenue, that's still apartment, although there's a lot of resort hotels there. Those hotels are considered non-conforming uses, right?
That's right.
Does DPP have an objection or an opinion or the community about perhaps making them conforming by including the Mauka side of the street only, just the street or avenue, Kuhio Avenue, also resort?
So there was, and again, we are a little segmented, so I don't want to say more than I am sure of. But I do know that there was a sort of fix for that nonconformity in Waikiki, where a lot of those properties are able to redevelop, even though they're nonconforming. But it still means that you can't build new ones on properties that were not already resort.
Right. Okay. Okay, thank you so much. Members, any follow-up questions? Council members, say any questions? Councilmember Wire, our housing chair.
Thank you, Chair. Mahalo for the presentation. I was curious, I think the number that you had for the 2045 need was 50,000 units to meet our housing demands.
The status quo, yes, but that's island-wide, not for the PUC.
Island-wide, so not just for the PUC,
Yes.
but all of Oahu. Do you know if we're on target to meet those numbers?
I would refer you to the annual report because it does show all of the planned and pipeline projects. So that's the closest estimate that we have, and it's sort of in the realm. But then again, as I mentioned, there's still the latent housing demand that we have, especially for affordable units. And then there's the redevelopment activity, just the normal overturn of the building stock itself.
Appreciate that. Could you explain a little bit more about what you mean by that when you talk about the affordable housing demand?
So there are people who may be living in more dense situations than they would otherwise like if there were more affordable housing available.
Appreciate that. When you say denser than they would like, is that like multi?
Like doubling up or multi-generational not by choice. Yeah.
So more dramatic means than the historic, multi-generational grandparents, parents, kids.
Correct.
Maybe even much broader.
Which is, again, it's folks who would, otherwise like to get a place that was more affordable to them. But if it's unavailable, then
I appreciate that. And then last question. So the 50,000 goal, is it my understanding that's reflective of the actual population demand, probably factoring in the 50,000 folks we lose every year due to outmigration, and then some people come in. That's just the number reflective
so
of.
that's the so these land use reports get updated every year based on census data, and again they're also reflective of the general plan distribution and the pipeline project. So they fluctuate a little bit, but they're usually pretty similar and pretty accurate.
Okay, appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. My question, I have a few questions, and I think I may have referenced some, but generally last time, but I do have a question relating to terminology that we're referring to in the primary urban center development plan. I do see that there are certain terms that we have not included in other plans or other plans. So first off, one is neighborhood green streets. First, is this a newer terminology?
It's not a new terminology, but it. Thank you for bringing that up, because sometimes planners can forget that not everybody is hearing that same terminology over and over. Green street simply means it's a street that is shaded with trees, and also likely has a component of low impact development. So meaning it has some sort of nature-based stormwater infrastructure as well.
In addition to the tree coverage?
Yeah, it could be either or, but those are the things that would make it a green street.
Okay, got it. And since we are making that specific reference into the primary urban center, are we then going to look at changing certain plans that have been adopted in the past few years to refer to such terminology, especially the TOD plans?
Yes, so TOD plans actually they do include green streets.
Okay.
And I would also point to DTS planning. Their complete street guidelines also has a whole section on green streets.
Okay.
And the Department of Facilities Maintenance is currently working on a stormwater master plan, which is in very early phases, but I would imagine that it would also include green streets.
Okay, good to hear that it's incorporated and then going to be incorporated in the future plans. My next question is in relation to the commercial use in areas that are going to be recommended to be moving from single zoning to mixed use with business and retail or commercial at the street level. If it's a requirement to have commercial at the street level, but a landowner isn't able to rent it out, what is able to happen then when that's I'm sure it's not a mandate or prescription, but it's just what is in the plan.
Yeah, so again, that is those areas that are shown as mixed use. If they are already more single use, it would probably be a situation where it's allowed but not mandated.
Sorry, can you repeat that again, please?
If it's an area that is currently single use, it's unlikely to go to being mandated to have commercial on a ground floor. It's more likely, if zoning were adjusted, that you would be allowed on some of the corridors.
Oh, just allowed. Okay,
yeah.
Not specifically prescribed and mandated.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Although that, sorry. It just came to mind in some of the TOD areas, which are, have a much higher development threshold and do have those special area plans. I think it is a requirement in some instances, but that wouldn't just outside of those districts. That is unlikely to be an outcome.
Okay, thank you. And I don't know if it's specifically prescribed for parts of either District 4 or 5, but in the plan itself, it mentions district financing as a means to support infrastructure enhancement. And as it relates to multimodal transportation, there's different, barriers to get to that part, right? Which is mainly some Saturn infrastructure that comes along in different parts of the primary urban center. So would you be able to please explain the concept of district financing?
So district financing usually works in an area where the property owners are able to contribute at a higher level because it benefits them and they're able to share costs in order to upgrade infrastructure. If it's an area where infrastructure is needed, but there are properties that aren't generating revenue or folks that aren't able to pay for those infrastructure upgrades, those are upgrades that the city needs to take the lead on, you know, what is needed to serve the existing development, and maybe it's not a expansion situation.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Any other questions, council members, for DPP? Seeing none. You know, I cut off testimony after all the registered testifiers came up from the public. I'd like to now turn it over to non-registered testifiers and those who haven't had a chance to testify and those who may have come a little late. If we could turn the lights back on. I see Linda Wong raising your hand. So, hello, Ms. Wong. Please come to the podium, which is over there on the left. Yeah, perhaps if you can you line up and we'll try to accommodate everyone. Hello, Ms. Wong. Good to see you.
I was not expecting the city council tonight. I've gone to all the PUC meetings in the last 30 years as a representative of Diamond Head and the neighborhood board. Here's my little sack. I got PUC. Okay. None of the other PUC meetings were like this. They all had the public come. We all had a big representation, all of us. We got in groups. We talked about things. We handed over what we thought about things. And you know, I didn't know this was a city council meeting. You know, it wasn't portrayed as a city council meeting in any of the invites that I got. And I'm sad to say the turnout was really bad. You know, I couldn't even tell where the presenter who was speaking. Granted, and I'm sorry, I was late, but I was trying to get out information about this meeting tonight. It was always between DPP and the residents. The city council had nothing to do with it. I understand you have now Bill 24. That's city council related. But, you know, why the big change in, the meetings were run by DPP. So I'd like to know how this way we're doing things has facilitated. We had some meetings, and we want to keep our neighborhoods. We don't want tall high rises. Everybody skips over Honolulu because it's a concrete jungle, and they go to other islands. This is more of a concrete jungle. Just in Diamond Head or Kaimuki, and it's like keep Kaimuki, right? They put Kuile Place, disposed a bunch of people. They're still not there. I'm in touch with them. They still haven't found a place to live. And the proposed one at the back of UH is, I'm sorry, I just think it's a joke. It's like that's the back game of the UH. Where are they going to go when all these cars pour out of the games at the UH? You know, it's too congested. When you first put that idea out, the people came out and protested. They were actually on the street. And the people who got kicked out of Kuile Place are still looking for a place. They still don't have a place to live. They keep in touch with me. You know, the whole, why did it change? Why did everything how we were doing change? I guess somebody thought it was better, but, you know, nobody asked us. They just changed it. I'm really disappointed in that, and I feel You know, nobody told us about this. We used to have 6 or 8 meetings for 2 or 3 months with the whole every population coming. And you know, even Rick talk about Waikiki. Rick Agin said, "Grow out, not up."
So basically, how it works is that EPP comes up with a plan through community meetings. Then
I
they,
wasn't invited. I'm sorry, but I haven't been invited to any meetings in years.
but I'm just explaining the process, and then EPP sends it to the Planning Commission. There's public hearings there, which your neighborhood board, I believe, was
We
very
had a
effective.
resolution.
Very effective in testifying there because you got part of the plan changed. And then it comes to us. By the way, on the 6 years that I've been on the council, this is the first time that we're in the community. Well, second time, third time actually. But I thought it was important to bring the actual committee right
That's
here
good.
to this district to hear from you all. So this is a good thing actually. And what you missed, Linda, was our planning chair saying that she's going to listen to each and every one of the committee members in making their recommendations. So I hear what you're saying. You don't want any more density, no more height buildings. So thank you. I do note that you have about 10 people behind you, and I do want to make sure we only have the room for so long.
Yeah, but
that
we
we
weren't
get to
allotted
everybody.
enough time to speak. This is how did it change? How did it change to run by the city council? Well, quite frankly, I'm finding a lot of this. You know, the city council leads with a bill or something, and then everything gets changed by the city council. Where it never used to be like that.
Well, perhaps DPT can answer that
It's
question.
number one and number two. Somebody puts out a thing like pay raises, and then the budget backs them up, and then everything's different all of a sudden.
But the good news is, not only do you have the opportunity to opine tonight, I believe there are going to be 2 other hearings in the community, as well as probably 2 more hearings at the city council to weigh in.
So this is all going to be city council led.
No, it's actually DPP led. We just get the
Well,
final
why
say.
doesn't DPP do the presentation to the people like it used to do?
I believe they did. Actually, can you explain? You folks did do
Yeah, I
community
heard
housing.
somebody reading, but it's not how we didn't have the city council as a big thing up in front of us higher than everybody else. We were within groups, and then we reported what our group said.
But I'm happy to, while they're putting that slide up, I'm happy to talk to you offline, but I really do want to try to accommodate everyone. So if you can be polite and let the person behind you get a chance, and then if we have more time, you can wait in line again.
That sounds condescending to me.
Thank you. Thank you. Aloha, welcome.
Hi, Jean Simon, Waialae Gardens, so above Kahala. If you could do the I know you started to do the presentation first and got overruled. It would be really helpful to see the presentation first rather than the other way around. So.
Yeah, no, that's why we're coming back to testimony. But good point. Do you want to opine at all about the Kahala area?
This announcement was the first I heard about any of this. And I am past president of Waialae Gardens. Didn't know anything about this. In fact, coming to this, I wasn't even sure what exactly the presentation was by the announcement that I got. So might be a little clearer.
Okay. Hopefully we have a sign-up sheet outside. If you give me your email address or phone number, I'm happy to call you and give you a more in-depth presentation and get your feedback. Thank you. Hello, sir. Welcome.
Aloha, Councilman Waters and Chairman Say. I'm Dick Tudor, a Sovereign condominium resident, My concerns are that zoning laws be maintained, including those for density, setback, and building heights, and avoid 201H exemptions to the zoning laws.
Thank you.
Also, we have a marvelous public transportation system here, which I often ride, use my Holo Holo card. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Aloha, welcome.
Aloha, Council Chairs and Committee. Thank you so much for this wonderful presentation. My name is Deborah King, and I live in District 4 in Waikiki specifically. And this is the first time I've actually seen this, so I'm going to review it and write some written testimony. But I would like to bring some concerns up. I noticed that it said walkable in Waikiki. However, that's not the experience that I've had, because in the last 6 weeks, I've almost been run over 3 times. And I live in a beautiful high-rise building. However, they don't maintain it. And I should be eligible for a second parking spot because there are many empty spaces. Yet I had to park across the street. And so I have to walk across the street because there's no sidewalks going to the nearest crosswalk. And sometimes I'm almost run over there because I don't know if they can see me or not. So my question is, who would pay for long-term maintenance? Because we don't have any, because as I walk in my community into Waikiki now, there's a lot of odors. There's people sleeping at bus stops. I've heard at some town hall meetings that we don't even have the appropriate fire equipment to maintain for high-rise buildings, so they can't even get to those heights. And then some of the beaky bikes are taking up free spaces or metered spaces, so we can't even park in those. So my question is, this is for the future, but we need help now. So, and also, even though the beaky bikes aren't supposed to ride on the sidewalk, there were 5 that came at me one day on the sidewalk, and I had to jump to the side. So I just want you to consider those in some of your planning too. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Cordero?
Thank you very much, Deborah. Can you write? Oh, Deborah King. Would you be able to share, if it's not up here now, maybe you can write down on a notepad for us, I should say, and let us know the streets that you
Kuhio
experienced.
Avenue.
Okay.
And also in Waikiki at Bank of Hawaii, I know that those sidewalks, I believe, are maintained by the businesses.
Mm-hmm.
However, there are missing pieces, and I've tripped and fallen.
Okay.
I know that some of the current streets, the crosswalk and the actual new paved road, don't, I guess, aren't flush.
Right.
And so it looks fine until you trip on it and almost fall. So basically, these are infrastructure problems now.
Yes.
And so anyway, so these are
Thank
just
you.
things.
I think it would be helpful. I do have my staff up there. That if you could write down all the specific streets,
Okay.
and so that the council member of the district or just the council will be able to share that with the proper department and business district.
Sure.
Thank you.
Ma'am, thank you for your comments. I would like to say that this plan is not is intended to resolve all problems. As we get down into the weeds, there are a lot of programs being undertaken by the city. I would recommend you just Google complete streets.
I have.
Yes. Because I'm working in my community, and I know that it's slower than people would like, but there's a lot of, the general plan gives guidance to the development and sustainable communities plans.
Right.
And in turn, all of these functional plans draw down from there, as well as the land use ordinance. And so they're supposed to work in tandem. But the functional plans are the ones who implement the development plans that we're considering. But thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Aloha.
My name is James Kelly. I live in Waikiki, and like Jacob, I also rode a bike here today. I think we are all united in wanting the same things. We all want to reduce traffic. We all want to increase housing affordability. However, the only way to reduce traffic and increase road safety is to build more viable transit options. Completing the rail line and creating more protected bike lanes give residents real alternatives to driving and reduce the number of car trips. Similarly, the only way to make housing more affordable is to build more housing. While we would all prefer that this happen in some other neighborhood, the reality is that some other neighborhood is someone else's neighborhood. Inaction is a choice, and it is the worst choice that we can make. You need only look at what decades of failing to act and NIMBYism has done to mainland cities like San Francisco and others. We want to avoid that future for Honolulu. I appreciate the thought and work being done here to solve this difficult problem, and want to thank the Council and Planning Department for your efforts to plan, act, and build us a better future. I know that often sentiments at these meetings can be more on the unhappy side because all of the unhappy people are remaining seated or they're happily at home. So I wanted to know that, let you know that we see that this is a complicated process and we appreciate the effort being put forth here. Mahalo.
Thank you. Members, any questions for the testifier? Seeing none, thank you, sir. Aloha.
Hi, hi. My name is Andrew Lawrence, 30-year resident of Councilman Say's district, and then now Councilman Waters' district. Moved recently, taking a slightly different approach from the predecessor here. I'm quite concerned about the development of, and I'm going to apologize first off. I haven't had a chance to read this plan. As a working person, you know, as you folks know, it's your world. It's your world. It's hard for us to keep up. My job is to look at the news every day, and I have to send reports about the news on various subjects. I only saw this in Hawaii Public Radio on the conversation. So wherever it's been broadcast or publicized, I mean, if I missed it and this is my job, I don't know who else is seeing it, and hence the small turnout. So what, if I may possibly ask any of you folks, I mean, you guys can get on the news at any time. I mean, get in and invite your community members. This is so important. And that, you know, even the legislature this year with Bill 3202, it was such a heated issue. So obviously I understand your interest in what the community has to say. So thank you for holding this out in the public at a time that working folks can attend. This is just fantastic. Okay, now I'll talk about the issue. I haven't had a chance to look at the plan, and this was the first that I've seen of it, so thank you for publishing the copies. I'll go home and study it. But what I would like to say on the topic is that generally speaking, I mean, I've submitted written comments over the years on things like the Oahu General Plan and things like that. There used to be in these plans certain language that would say we're protecting from overpopulation, the problems of overdevelopment, and the degradation of what makes Hawaii or Oahu so special. And in recent years, I've seen proposals to take that language out. So I'm not sure who writes these, you know, but if the idea is just to free up that we can have more growth, which I understand we need, but to me, we're headed to Hong Kong. And so somewhere in the plan, maybe it's here already, I would appreciate language that, you know, we recognize what makes Hawaii special, why it's been such a tourist destination, and we, you know, the effort to protect it. At least, you know, some of what I used to see in the plan. And that said, some of what was said about how we're trying to channel along the transit-oriented development in certain areas, but that's good. That makes a lot of sense. What I don't know if it's in here. What I would also like to see is certain areas that we have reserved for affordable housing. There's certain strategic areas. I testified to you folks on this. It was in January of 23 when Kuilei, or was it 22 when Kuilei Place was being approved. Where that was built, man, that is just prime for the location for affordable housing infrastructure near schools, near grocery stores, near the service industries in Waikiki and Alamo Center. And Councilman Say was so kind to spend a significant amount of his day, you know, explaining to me how it all worked because I didn't know. But it would be great in these plans to see if we could target, if we recognize areas that are ideal. Let's not sacrifice them to, you know, commercial development for folks who could afford to live elsewhere. When there's folks who would use transit the bus and go to Kaimuki for their jobs and stuff, I mean, I would like to see that, and I will look for that. But my comments would be if we could maybe target that a little more, it would relieve a lot of the pressure you guys might get, or the legislature might get on bills like 3202, where we're talking about spreading free market housing into the neighborhoods. And that's the only other thing I guess I wanted to comment on, the free market housing. Would there be a place in the plan for what we might call, or what Peter Stavio has advocated for, as like government-sponsored housing, that where we can control the pricing and ensure that local folks can live there? And I'm not talking about, you know, projects like on the mainland. I'm talking about something very creative, or as some of the language you're talking about, house-like or, you know, residential-like developments, but something that would protect from the outside investors that keep seeming to, at least as I can tell, over the last 40 years or so, running up the prices just because they can afford to pay it. And I think that's it. That's it. Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate you guys having this out here. It makes such a difference, folks like me. And I'm sorry, some of the people were going to come with me. They didn't make it. They forgot. We'll work on it.
Thank you, Andrew. I really appreciate you taking time to be here. And you made some very, very good points.
Yeah, if y'all could just get on the news. I mean, they're looking for good stories, and this is so important. Invite us, because I'll come to the next one too. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, any follow-up points or questions? Seeing none, thank you, sir.
Thank you for everything. And thank you for having this meeting tonight. And I doubled down on what he said about giving people notice about this. The only reason I know about this meeting tonight is because someone on a neighborhood board emailed me that there was this meeting tonight. That's the only reason. But you have such an important job, and DPP, you have such an important job. The red line that you put, Malka of Kuhio Avenue, I hope you erase that, because it shouldn't happen unless you widen Kuhio Avenue, which is not possible. Your job is so important. If you think about who gave the Navy permission to build those tanks above our aquifers in the 30s, who gave them permission? This is how important government workers' jobs are. It's so vital to the future of Hawaii. Thank you.
Thank you. Aloha.
Hello, Sarah Chinen. So Calvin, I'm gonna miss you, but you still have to call me because I got ideas. So anyway, I like that young man. I like what he said, and it's refreshing to hear that from young people. Because as an old person, it's heartbreaking to see what's happened to our state. I don't know if you have people that come once every 5 or 10 years, and every time they come, they're pretty much shocked. They believe Honolulu's becoming too overdeveloped. And yes, your job is to build more housing, but Kaka'ako is for millionaires. And but they are given the green light. Howard Hughes Court, 14 400-foot high buildings is allowed. So I feel like we're frogs being boiled. You know, it starts slow, and then once it gets to the boiling point, we're dead. But for the sake of the young people who do want this development because they want a place to live, we also have to preserve what we have in Hawaii. And so we need people who are willing to preserve what we have, not just change it because, well, we might need 50,000 more homes, but change it so you still maintain the beauty and the safety of Hawaii. And I got other stuff, but Calvin, you gotta call me. But thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Hello, Council. Thank you for having us give some testimony today. My name is Arlene Velasco. I'm with the Diamond Hood Neighborhood Board Number 5, and I'm also the current chair of Surfrider Foundation. So in those two capacities, I've seen some very devastating decisions being made in communities as far as development. with reference to infrastructure and sea level rise in particular. I'm very concerned that two developments, the Kualei and the Pahoa Ridge, were approved, and there, as far as I can see, there was no consideration to even the DPP's current, the plan that they put in front of us today, as far as how are those buildings going to deal with flooding? How are those buildings going to deal with the sewage lines that are going to be inundated with groundwater and seawater? These are very much concerns that will affect the quality of our water. It will affect tourists coming into Waikiki, because they're going to start learning that our waters off of Waikiki are very polluted. This is not a good scenario, and I would like DPP and to consider, and the councilmen to consider going back to those, specifically those two huge developments that I just mentioned, and make sure that when they get built, they're going to be resilient up to that, I think she was just saying, to the 6-foot rise level, not the 3.2. So I just wanted to make those points. One quick other thing about the occupancy rate that I've observed in Kaka'ako in particular. I've gone there at night before, and you see a lot of unlit condos. And I would like to know what the occupancy rate is in those areas, because we're talking about affordable housing and housing for our community. And if those housings are being, just sat upon for investment, well, that's not very good for our local community. And I think that's, oh, one other quick thing. Somebody mentioned about the footbridge that's supposed to go across the Alawai. I've been at other presentations. One of the engineers who gave a presentation one time pointed out that if that footbridge goes into the university area from the Alawai to the University Street area, that actually is in the tsunami zone. So you do not want people going across that bridge into a flood area. You want them to go up. I just wanted to make sure that that's also considered. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Wire.
Wanted to, sorry, I think the audio jumped on. No, just wanted to say mahalo for coming down, and just wanted to say I agree with your sentiments. I think first quarter of this year, the numbers show that 1 in 4 condos, 1 in 10 single family homes were sold to out-of-state folks, and I think that ties into why we're having 50,000 people leave every year, right? DPP talked about just the complexity of we're way beyond multi-generational families now, and it's like cross-generational, everybody in one house, and we have to keep those folks safe too. And I think the last testifier mentioned the need for balance. So I think everyone's making great points of how we have to be mindful of the direction of, where we're going in terms of climate change, understanding the managed retreat is important, and how do we stop those vacant units from being out there. So that's why I'm really grateful some of my colleagues introduced the vacancy tax that's going to be at council. So I hope everyone stays tuned into that and provides testimony as well. So thank you for your testimony.
Just one more. Thank you for saying that. And the empty house tax is a step in the right direction. However, I would really like, I'm sorry that Carol Fukunaga is not in the room right now, because I'd like the state and the city to work together and get a list of the people who do not pay state income tax to the state of Hawaii, yet they own property here. There should be a special tax for them. And they're raising taxes for the local people. They're raising the housing prices for the local people, and they're not contributing like we are out of our paychecks every month, every 2 weeks, whatever. And I want the city and state to address the homeless and the housing problems together, using synergy to squash it once and for all. And 201H is like doing surgery with a scalpel, instead of a scalpel, a machete. And I hope that 24 is not going to be the same way. please use 100% integrity every day you work for the state, for the city, for the county. Please, 100% integrity is all I ask. Thank you.
Thank you. Aloha.
Aloha. Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
I have sort of a general question for DPP first, which is looking at, you have a couple different things that talk about either housing development or vision and growth. It doesn't seem to me that it's equal east and west in terms of, I assume, I know things have changed post-COVID, but most people are still going to downtown for jobs in terms of like the largest commuter areas. But I noticed Liliha, Kapalama, that kind of area doesn't seem to be nearly as, signaled out for growth. And I'm curious if you could speak a little to that.
Sure. So what you're holding is the handout for this meeting, which is specifically on District 4 and 5.
Okay.
So the plan
It's just
itself
not colored at all
goes
there.
from Waialaikahala to Pearl City and contains content in the entire area.
Okay, both of those. Thank you. So it's just missing. I noticed some other pages even on Manoa where the coloring seems to be extremely off in terms of the zoning designations. But that is from
Yeah, the
that
actual
isn't
plan
this area.
is
Better
very
colored.
comprehensive and online.
The actual plan also has these problems where Manoa doesn't have the coloring correct for like the preservation areas. They just seem to be uncolored. But that's
If you have a specific question, email us or me, and I'll work with DPP to get you the specific answer to your question.
I do have a follow-up question, Chair, and for the rest of the council members who are here, which goes to sort of what a lot of people have brought up in the past and in other meetings, and to 3202, which is the idea of, I think, we recognize the necessity of growth, and we all want smart growth, planned growth. I kind of would like, I guess, a bit of an assurance that projects that don't fit in with the PUCDP will be clear to developers not to pursue projects that fall far outside of what is, shown to be the areas that can be planned growth. I know of a couple projects in Manoa Valley that are in areas that, as per the PUCDP, Ridge Valley neighborhood should not have much more growth other than turnover, and yet some large projects are being, keep moving forward. It would be nice if the city council were to say, because at the end it comes to you folks, to say, pretty forcefully that you're not going to give those the green light when it comes to the end.
I wish we could. This came up recently when we passed the East Honolulu Sustainable Communities Plan. And rather than having it as a guiding document, I wanted it to be something that we hold the city to and the developers to. And we're told that we can't do that. Not on this document. Not on the development, the PUC plan, or the East Honolulu Sustainable Communities Plan. I wish we could. This is just meant as a general guide for future growth and where future growth should be.
Absolutely.
But I hear you. And what I heard today from DPP is that, and you may or may not have heard my complaint earlier, that sometimes the permitting side of permitting and planning doesn't listen to the planning side. And that's, I think, what you're talking about. That's what I'm concerned about as well. But we'll do our best to get them to work together.
And when it comes to you at the end for a vote.
And then when it comes to us in the end for a vote. Again, I tried in the East Honolulu Sustainable Communities Plan to make it prescriptive, not guidance, and I couldn't do it. They won't allow us to do that.
I appreciate that. And also your work on 3202 and, trying to plan for smart growth.
Thank you. Thank you.
I just want to make one more comment about, I heard property taxes come up. And basically, in the beginning, when I first started with the neighborhood board, basically the monster homes was the big issue. And so, but Nothing was done. The monster homes keep coming in, and basically all it does is drive up the property values, because then they value the monster home at a certain amount higher than what our residents are, and so then our property taxes keep going up. And so I live in a multi-generational home, and I want my grandchildren to continue living there. But I've seen families lose their properties because of rising property taxes throughout the state. And so that's one of the issues that's just killing me. And so, I came home in the early 70s from the mainland. I always wanted to buy a condo in the Marco Polo, but I couldn't afford it. And all the developments I've seen coming up in those big condos, I still can't afford it. And so you talk about building development for local people, and basically what they say is right. You look at the lights, they're all off because a lot of the units belong to people outside of Hawaii.
A good point. I mean, one of the difficult parts about this job is that we have to provide a balanced budget, right? We got to make sure that our police, fire, ambulance are all taken care of. The people who fix our roads, the sewer system, the board of water supply, and ultimately the city does need income to do that, which is your property taxes. But last year, I think we worked really hard to address that by increasing your homeowners exemptions for kupuna, increasing homeowners exemptions for actually everyone who owns a piece of property, and then providing a rebate, which was, as in my recent memory, has not been done. So we hear what you're saying as far as how expensive it is to live here. But what I want to talk about just for a second, because I think we're running out of time, that this plan is as a result of the general plan. The general plan talks about the whole island. And what I'm talking about is guiding growth. Yeah. And in the general plan, they said that we should look at the primary urban core and the EVA area, as well as along the TOD, transit-oriented development line, the rail, which you testified to earlier. But even in doing that, we're talking specifically about the primary urban core, as mentioned, from Kahala to Pearl City, right? That's where the studies are saying that that's where future growth should be. I got to tell you guys, what concerns me, and I think everybody on this panel here, 67,000 people left the state of Hawaii in 2022. 67,000 people. They said 55,000 came in, and no, it's only a net of 12,000, but really 67,000 people left. Yeah, I'm the fifth of 6 kids, all born and raised here. 3 of us went to Kamehameha schools, 2 went to Castle, and my one sister went to Kaiser. They all live on the mainland. I got 2 kids. Yeah, one's going to school on the mainland, and it scares me to death to think that she's never going to come back. And my son wants to go to school on the mainland, and so many of my classmates and friends have talked about the fact that their kids cannot afford to live here. So where we gotta build, as DPP said, 50,000 units now short, right? The median price of a home is now up to $1.2 million, which is scary. I want to ask you all to go online and check out this report from UHERO, University of Hawaii Economics Research Organization. They did a housing fact book. Yeah, Housing Fact Book 2024. Please Google it and check it out. Right? We got the highest rent in the country. The highest rent in the country. Of all the cities, we pay the most. Out-of-state home buyers in 2022 was 20.7% for single-family homes from out-of-state home buyers. 27.2% condominiums were from out-of-state. That's scary, guys. And it's worse on the neighbor islands. Kauai is upwards of 60% of the condos on Kauai. 50% of the condos on the Big Island from out of state. Yeah. So one of the things we're looking at in our housing chair is making owner occupancy requirement. Yeah. A residency requirement that if the city is involved in building something, you got to be a resident. Yeah. The empty homes tax, which we introduced last week, creating a 3% tax from these outside investors who are going to come. Hey, como mai, come, but you got to pay, right? So those are some of the things that we're looking at to try to alleviate this housing problem. But ultimately, folks, we don't have enough units. So where are they going to go? Where are they going to go? But that's all I have to say. I want to turn it over to Calvin, see if he has some closing remarks.
Just 1 or 2 minutes.
Actually, I'm sorry. I will spend time with you though, Linda, but I'd like to turn the microphone over now to Calvin Say.
Yes, being part of the District 5 council member, let me just say this to all of you. Your presence is so important as far as being here. Your words mean a lot to all of us, and we also have a difficult task. No matter what the council tries to do, we're doing it on behalf of the present generations and the future generations. I just wanted to give you folks an example being the chair of zoning this past 2 years. If you were in my position and a developer came up to you and said, hey, Bruce, Sarah, I'll finance 60% of the units affordable if you give us 40% market. Andrew, I would think that's a great deal. We also have other issues that I am very much concerned that you as taxpayers do not realize how much we contribute to affordable housing. What is 201H? It's a state law that grants the developer the exemptions on park dedication, school improvement, tie-in to your sewer lines. All of this, we are contributing. And then, for a lot of members and the general public, do you realize that for those affordables, you get a 10-year moratorium on the property tax in trying to make it affordable for our local generation. That's what we're trying to do, and I think your presence means a lot to me. I'm just happy to see I see Whitney out there. Thank you very much for attending. Sarah is my classmate. Brucey is at St. Louis. Andrew for me, all of you. Rafael is here and others. We are concerned, and I'm so happy Chair Waters, Chair Kiana has decided that we do our outreach. Even though it's a small part of it, you know, I brought this topic up at the neighborhood boards. Hey, August 12th now, come on down to Kaimiki High School. How much more public dissemination do you folks need? Maybe it's a fault of my own that I didn't, you know, collate all of the different organizations in District 5. The AOAs that we're dealing with, Chair Waters, as far as what's happening with insurance, life safety evaluation. It's just endless as far as what we're trying to address. And for Arlene, you're correct. I think a lot of developers today may be having second thoughts as far as how close can you be in developing a property close to the ocean because of sea level rise, king tide, storm water, all of this. This is what we deal with. And it's tough. Because I look at some of the answers that other elected officials say, oh, repeal the exemption, repeal all of these obstacles that are put before developers. Hey, those obstacles were at the request of the general public out there, all of you, in protecting what we have as part of our environment, our zoning code, our health and safety, etc. If you want to do away with it, it's a free-for-all as far as if something happens, we're not liable. You'll be held liable even though the cost may be a little cheaper than what it may be. So in closing, thank you very much. This is part of my district that I'm sorry, I didn't grow up at Kaimiki High School, Sarah. I was at Upper Campus. And for all of you, aloha and have a great evening tonight. Hold on.
Thank you. I'd like to now turn it over to Planning and Economy Chair Esther Kiaina.
Thank you to everyone for participating this evening and providing your comments on this important plan. For those of you who wanted to know who is notified, for my part as the chair, I work with the neighborhood board commission, and any email that he had for the nearly 20 neighborhood boards, I sent out a list. I'm going to need the help of the neighborhood board chairs or anybody to also kokua in your community, as well as the members from the district. This is not over. We have 2 more field hearings and 2 committee hearings. So for your information, here is what is scheduled for future community-based meetings on the primary urban center development plan. Our next meeting has been rescheduled to Monday, August 26th from 6 to 7:30 p.m. at Leeward Community College, room ED 201B. This will be Councilmember Okimoto's District 8. We will finish up our community-based meetings on Monday, September 23rd from 6 to 7:30 p.m. at Kuananokoa Middle School Cafeteria, which is Councilmember Dos Santos Tam's District 6. As we did here this evening, at all of these meetings, we will focus on aspects of the plan for the council district where the meeting is being held. The Department of Planning and Permitting will be attending and providing a short presentation on the plan highlights and focal points for the applicable council district. We hope to get all of the communities involved as we continue our discussion of the plan. Again, this is only the legislative process. There was already an administrative process that the Department of Planning and Permitting already undertook. It is my intent to calendar for action Bill 24, 2024 in late September and October respectively at the committee level, and full council in October and November respectively. I wanted to mahalo the principal of Kaimuki High School, Laura Lai Awohi, Ms. MJ Matsushita, and the staff at Kaimuki High School for accommodating us and allowing the use of the school's auditorium for tonight's meeting. There being no further business, this meeting is adjourned.